Assalamu alaikum guys, welcome back to math. I'm trying a new medium today. Inshallah, maybe this video will be a little bit better and hopefully I can upload it much faster. And inshallah, nobody should have trouble tomorrow. Let's just wait and see, inshallah. Anyway, so today guys, we are doing our third lesson out of chapter 8 and we are solving both addition and subtraction equations. I know that we have done it mentally in lesson 1 and then we wrote equations for real world problems. Now we're actually solving them and doing the proper steps, which you do need to show workout. Now the workout is very simple, guys, and I know that a lot of you can solve the problems mentally, but still you need to prove to me that you can undo operations. And what we're going to be working with today is inverse operations. Inverse operations basically means opposite of the operation. All right. So to start off with your example, it tells you solve each equation. Now we're going to be using what is called subtraction property of equality. Subtraction property of equality is used when you have an equation where you're adding a value. So in order to get rid of that plus 33, I need to do the inverse, which what's the opposite of adding 33 is subtracting 33. So what I'm going to do to the left hand side, I'm going to subtract and reduce it by 33 so I can get rid of it. And if I do it to one side of the equal sign, I need to also do it to the other side. And that is what is called the subtraction property of equality. You want to be equal to both sides. You need to be fair. That's the only way then you can keep an equation balanced. As in a life also, we want everything balanced. We need to be able to balance things. So on the left-hand side, the plus 33 minus 33 cancel each other out. Now you're left only with the variable of x. So on the left-hand side of the equation, you have x, and then on the right hand side, 74 minus 33, it gives you 41. And I know that it's very easy, guys, but you still need to prove it because later on in math, you're going to be working with equations that will have, 4 or 5 things going on one side and another 3 or 4 going on the other side of the equal sign. You need to be able to consolidate all that. You need to be able to use inverse operations so you can, solve for the variable. Now, another thing is, especially when you have a quiz or a test, it would be smart to go ahead, if I have extra time, well, let me check my answer. So we have the equation x plus 33 is equal to 74. Although I'm not asking you to do it for every problem, I do want you on test or quiz, go back and check. Because sometimes we're working just too quick and we can make very small mistakes. So here we go, 41 plus 33 is equal to 74. Then go ahead and add 41 plus 33 is 74, and the other side is 74, so then our solution, at this point, we know that our solution is correct. Now, here's another example. 14 plus w is equal to 91. We are adding 14 and w. Now, how do I get rid of the 14? We need to look at the problem. The 14, is there a symbol in front of it? If there's no symbol in front of it, that means that the number is a positive number. What's the inverse of a positive number? Or in other words, what's the opposite of a positive number is a negative number. So instead of the positive 14, I'm going to write negative 14. And at the same time, basically with math, what I'm doing is I'm subtracting 14. And like I said, if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side. So I'm subtracting 14 from both sides. On the left-hand side, they canceled out. The 14 minus 14 became 0. And then I'm left with a variable of w. And then 91 minus 14. By the way, those of you that are not mental math students, you can go ahead and do the math on the site. 91 minus 14, go borrow from the 9, subtract, and so on and so forth. There's nothing wrong with that. That proves to me that you're taking the extra step to ensure that your question, or your answer rather, is correct. So 91 minus 14, I'm hoping that you got 77. So let's do a couple of more examples. Now we're going to be, this was subtraction property of equality. Now we're going to be doing addition property of equality. So we're going to be trying to get rid of a number or a value by adding. And like I said, you can check, guys. You don't have to. But, if you've got idle time, just to make sure you get the best grade always, especially on tests and quizzes, please check. Now, decimals can come into play. So in this problem, I have negative 14 and 9/10 plus g, and the sum of those two numbers is 73.4. Now, how do I get rid of negative 14 and 9/10? The opposite of a negative number is a positive number. So if I add 14.9 to the left, I add 14.9 to the right as well. These canceled each other out because of inverse operations. What am I left with on the left-hand side? I'm left with a variable of g. Now go ahead, add 73.4 plus 14.9. You should get 88.3. So I want you, right now at this point in the video, I'm going to see how many of us remember how to do this math right here. So you know that we're doing addition property of equalities, but here we go. Fractions come to play as well. Some of us are not good with mental math and fractions. So you've got m minus 4/5 is equal to 3/10. Go ahead and stop the video. Do the math. I'm going to continue in a minute, but stop the video, do the math, solve it on your own, then come and play the video again, check and see if you got exactly the same answer or not. So I'm adding 4/5 to both sides so I can cancel it out, and I have m is equal to 3/10 plus 4/5. Now I cannot add fractions if the denominators are not the same. So I need to look for a number that is called the least common denominator, and in this case the least common denominator between 10 and 5 is 10, because you can multiply 5 by 2. So m is equal to, now this already has a denominator of 10, so it remains, and then the other one, if I went ahead and multiplied by 2 in order to make my denominator 10, what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So I end up with 4 times 2 is 8. Now m is equal to 3 plus 8 is 11 over 10. And then the final answer, don't take a shortcut guys, always put variable is equal to, how many tenths in 11? There's 1. What is left over? 1/10. So final answer is 1 and 1/10. So I hope that everybody got that answer. Now let me show you just one more example that I want you to pay attention to, because sometimes some kids not skip a step, but skip the correct way of answering the question. So I have 49 is equal to x minus 27. Sometimes the variables can be on the right hand side. So if I want to go ahead and get rid of that minus 27, the inverse of subtracting 27, or rather the opposite, is adding 27. So if I add 27 to this side, I have to add 27 to the other side. Because remember, it's an equation and you want to keep it balanced. You want to be fair. Now 49 plus 27 should give you 76. On the right hand side, these canceled out and you're left with x. Please guys, don't answer this way. Don't put 76 is equal to x. Always put the variable on the left hand side. So here x is equal to 76. If you answer this way, you're going to lose points. So I'm hoping that this part of the lesson was easy, but now what you're fixing to do is you're going to go ahead and apply it to real world problems. And I'm hoping that you can see. So don't worry about the second word problem. Well, let's worry about the first one. So these are real world issues. Let me get you a little bit closer. So it's a real world issue, the first problem. It says Julie and Jen went swimming. Julie swam 575 meters. This is 150 more meters than Jen swam. Write and solve an addition equation to determine the number of meters that Jen swam. So although it's not requiring you to define a variable, we practiced that in the previous lesson, right? We practiced defining a variable so we can set up an equation for a real world problem. So if you want at this point, you can go ahead and stop the recording, take down all the word problem, write it down, because this is usually how you'll see it maybe in a test or a quiz. Now, in order to solve it, we need to pick important information. We need to look for the important information. What is the necessary information in order to write this up? So first thing, I know that they are asking for an addition equation. I should be seeing a plus sign in this problem. Second thing is they want to know how many meters Jen swam. So do we know the number of meters? No, we don't. We can give that a variable. So we're going to call the number of meters Jen swam is X. Okay? Now going back to the problem, Julie and Jen went swimming, and Julie herself swam 575. Now, what Julie swam is 150 more than what Jen swam. So the 150 more means that this is plus 150. Plus 150. Okay, and I went off the paper a little bit. So now to keep the 575, it's the total that Julie swam. So whenever we have a total, guys, it equals to that total. Our equation starts with equals to a certain total. So now how do I write the sum of Jenny plus the 150 that is more than what Jen swam, right? X plus 150. So here is our equation. X plus 150 is equal to 575. They also want us to solve it. So you can take it on the side. I'm going to bring it up here. X plus 150 equals 575. Get rid of the plus 150 through inverse operation, and you would be subtracting 150 from both sides. Minus 150 minus 150, X is equal to, and then 575, and by the way, I have a question mark right here, guys, I know that. So it kind of got in the way. But 575 minus 150 equals to 425. Now you can use any variable that you want. You can create your own variable. It's okay. Now remember, once you create an equation and you solve an equation, you already used a variable. Go ahead and use the variable in your answer. X is equal to 425. What are we talking about? We're talking about meters. So this one did say, write an addition equation and solve it. So I've got my written equation and I've got my solution. So now I want you to go ahead and pause, write this word problem down, try to figure it out, and then click on go again to play the video to see if you got the same answer. Me, on the other hand, I'm going to go ahead and start solving it. So if you want to solve it on your own, pause the video, and then come and check in what happened. So the problem reads, the difference between the number of people that visit an amusement park on a Saturday and the number of people that visit the park on a Wednesday is 465. Saturday is the busiest day of the week. There are 4,320 visitors on Wednesday. How many visitors are there on Saturday? Write and solve a subtraction equation. So first thing that I'm noticing is difference. Difference means that I'm going to be subtracting. Not only that, it told me down here that I need to be writing a subtraction equation. So I know that I need to be using minus somewhere. Now, the question always leads us kind of like to define the variable, and we mentioned that in a previous lecture. How many visitors, the number of visitors for Saturday? Well, I'm going to use V as my variable for, and it represents the number of visitors. Okay? So here we go back again. Now, remember that it's saying that the difference between the two, the difference between the number of people visiting on a Saturday and a Wednesday is 1,465. Total, and it says Saturday is the busiest day of the week, and it says there are 4,320 visitors on Wednesday. So the total people that went on Wednesday, this is considered the total, is 4,320. So I know, number one, we've defined my variable. Of course, if I'm doing a test or quiz, I would write V represents number of visitors for Saturday. So here we go. My equation starts with equals. The total we said is 4,320. 4,320. Now, how do I deal with my variable and the difference between the 2 days? Well, variable usually goes first, guys. Then you subtract that difference, and it is 1465. Okay? The difference between them is 1465 because they're telling you Wednesday, number one, they only had 1,465 people, but on Saturdays, you know, at the end of the, or rather the difference between them is, 1,465. And I'm sorry, I want to backtrack a little bit. The total that visitors for a Wednesday was 4,320. So now we know another thing. If we solve it, I need to get rid of that minus 1,465 by adding 1,465 to both sides. So go ahead and do the math. 4,320 plus 1465 is 5,785. Don't forget that we're talking about visitors. Don't forget your monkeys are birds. So here is one of my answers. The other answer is the equation. Now, always go back and check. If they're telling us that Saturday had always has the highest amount of people, does my solution make sense? If on Wednesday they had 4,320, does it make sense that they have 5,785 visitors on a Saturday? Yes, because it is greater. And the word problem itself also told us that it is a greater value. So I'm hoping that, you know, you learn how to break down a word problem. Don't be afraid of word problems. Take it a step at a time. Remember, look for the important information. Underline the question. The question always leads to the definition of the variable. Not only that, you know, are you being asked to do, for example, in this one they said addition equation, over here they said subtraction. Make sure you use the symbols that you're being asked to use. So if you have any questions, we'll see you tomorrow, and even if it's today's lecture or the previous lecture, make sure that you sign on in the morning, ask any questions you have, and I'm available for you. See you tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.